Hey guys, what's happening? Well, not that long ago, well, actually about 3 or 4 weeks ago, I got involved with the Evolve Big Alpha, which was a test of the multiplayer component of the new Evolve game. Now, I must admit, I didn't really know much about this game going into the alpha. I'd read a little bit of stuff online and I'd seen a few videos by other YouTubers, but really I hadn't paid all that much attention to it, and to be perfectly honest, I wasn't terribly excited about it. But Polygon were handing out some free alpha codes, so I thought, why not? It's kind of like a free game, I'll give it a go. So in this video I'm going to give you my thoughts on the multiplayer component, which is what was in the alpha. Apparently there's going to be a campaign as well, but I've got absolutely no idea what will be in the campaign, or if there'll be any other co-op modes, or if the campaign is co-op, or any of that sort of stuff. So we're just going to talk about the multiplayer that was in the alpha. Now initially it took me ages to get online, and I guess that's just one of the pitfalls of getting involved with an early release of a game. If you didn't know, an alpha generally comes before a beta, and I've been involved with a whole bunch of different alphas before. Never a game, but you know, different software and different products and stuff like that. And alphas are generally quite buggy and very early builds generally of whatever they are. And this was pretty polished from what it was. I didn't notice any glitches apart from the matchmaking that seemed to take an awful lot of time to get into. Once I got into the game, it was pretty straightforward. Basically, the gist of the game is you've got 5 players. One plays as the monster, and your goal as the monster is to basically find a generator, or I can't remember what it was called, and destroy it. But before you can do that, you have to evolve a couple of times, and the way you do that is by killing animals and other stuff around the level and eating them. And if you play one of the 4 hunters, your goal is to track down the monster and kill it before it can do any of that. If you play one of the hunters, there's 4 different classes to choose from. There's the medic, assault, support, and trapper, and one person has to be one of each. So when you first get into the game, it asks you what your preference is, whether you want to play as a hunter, which hunter class you want to be, or if you want to be the monster. I chose to be the monster. I put that as my primary preference, and I seem to get picked as the monster more often than not. There were 2 different monsters in the alpha. There was the Goliath and the Kraken. I believe the Kraken had to be unlocked by a certain amount of in-game challenges or playtime or something. I definitely didn't play long enough to unlock the Kraken, so my entire time was spent playing with the Goliath, and most of the games that I played was actually as the monster. From what I understand, there'll be 3 monsters in the full game, but I've got no idea what the 3rd monster will look like. Now overall, I thought the game looked pretty good. In terms of being a next-gen title, I think it's next-gen only, so Xbox One, PS4, and possibly PC. It's pretty high res, it seems to run at a decent frame rate. I don't have any stats whatsoever, so I couldn't tell you if it was 30 or 60, but I didn't notice any slowdown whatsoever through my experience. In terms of the game's audio, I think this was one of the areas which I found it a little bit lacking. I've come to expect quite a lot from next-gen titles in terms of audio, with Alien Isolation being one of the real standouts recently. So this game, for me, just felt a little bit flat. It kind of lacked punch, like none of the weapons really sounded that beefy or satisfying, and I really felt that the monster should have been more vocal or more intimidating. It just, I don't know, like it roared and, you know, made monster noises and stuff like that, but it was just never that impressive. I felt that the monster was supposed to be this big, scary thing, and it never had that presence. So I'll talk a little bit about playing as the hunters and then also playing as the monster. My experience with playing the hunter class, I played as the assault, and then I also played as support. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't terribly impressed with playing as a hunter. It kind of, I mean, the controls felt good and tight, just like any typical FPS. You've got a couple of different weapons, you've got a couple of different abilities depending on which class you are. But overall, I don't know, I just kind of found it a little bit boring. The whole match basically consists of you and your teammates running around trying to trap the monster. So this means that there's quite a lot of time where you're not really doing much except chasing the monster down. There are other things to do in the levels, like there are animals and plants and stuff that can attack you, and you can get bonuses and level up and stuff by destroying those or killing those. But I don't know, I think that the main draw should have been attacking the monster, and I felt like that didn't happen enough, and when it did, it was only you'd attack the monster for a couple of seconds and then it would run away, and I don't know, for me it just wasn't very interesting. Now I'll talk a bit about the monster. I definitely enjoyed the monster a whole lot more than playing as one of the hunters, and I think that's because I prefer the lone wolf style of gameplay in a first-person shooter. Now obviously as the monster you don't play in first person, you play in third person and you don't shoot anything. The Goliath has a couple of different projectiles. It's got a fire thing and you can pick up a rock and chuck it at the bad guys. But generally speaking, most of the attacks involve you getting up close and hitting them or biting them or whatever. My biggest problem with playing as the monster is the controls felt kind of floaty and unresponsive, and it really lacked weight. Like for a giant monster, I felt like you should have this sense of size and mass, and when you moved around you should I don't know, feel the weight of the monster, and it definitely didn't feel like that. And for a lot of the times when I was getting up close and trying to attack the hunters, it was, I don't know, the controls felt very unresponsive, and I felt a lot of the time I was just button mashing. Now, as the monster, your goal is to evolve a couple of times before you can attack this final thing. And what I found weird is when you evolved, it didn't really seem to do anything. I kind of thought evolving might make you much bigger or give you more abilities, but it didn't really seem to do that. Now, I may be mistaken, maybe there are extra abilities that I was unaware of, but it definitely wasn't very obvious. One of my biggest gripes overall is that the interface between the hunter and the monster is completely different. Now, I understand that the monster and the hunters are different characters, and one's first person and the other's third person, but it made it really difficult when you switched between the two because you essentially had to learn two different interfaces. And with the brief time that I spent with the game, I spent a lot of time fumbling over and trying to read through the interface while getting shot to pieces or mauled to death by the monster. So this definitely didn't make it very fun. And I guess once you'd played the game for a fair amount of time and learnt the interfaces, it would not be a problem at all. But definitely I thought it was a bit of a steep learning curve. So ultimately, going into this, I wasn't terribly excited about it, and coming out of the alpha, I'm still not convinced that this is going to be an entertaining game. I think if you get some friends together, like if you're playing with people that you know, this definitely could be a lot of fun. I'm also unsure about if this game will have the legs. I don't know what the rest of the game modes are like, you know, whether there's a campaign mode or co-op mode or different kinds of multiplayer matches, whether there's multiple monsters and that sort of stuff. But as it is, based on this multiplayer component, I can't see it lasting very long and people being really that into it. So I didn't think that it was bad, I don't know, it was a bit meh. But if you guys got involved in the alpha, I'd definitely like to hear your opinions, whether that was on the Xbox One or the PS4. Let me know if you're excited for the game and what part of the game that you're excited about. Maybe I didn't spend long enough with the game to truly understand its full potential. But that's my thoughts on Evolve at this stage. I'll definitely keep an eye on it and check it out when it comes out and see how it reviews and possibly see if there's a demo or some way that I can play it. But that's all I've got for you this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you later.